Jonathan Riffe, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. So I met Jonathan, it was 7 to 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than that. We did a CPR class together for District of Columbia bus drivers. We had 600 bus drivers, and we did that. We knocked that out in a week. We had a good time. Made some good money after they finally paid us. But DC, we waited on it. But it was a fun time. And since then, we've kind of kept in contact on social media, which means Sterling would be very proud of me because we've been able to keep in contact via social media. And then the other day, I was on LinkedIn and I saw the book. And I reached out to you and I said, man, you got to come in and talk to me about this. This is about the DC's most notorious arson. His name is Thomas Sweatt. That's how you pronounce that, right? And everybody wanted this dude. Everybody wanted to do a movie with him. Everybody wanted to get interviews. And you were the guy that was able to get into the prison. And for how many years did it take you to research and make this book with him?
Well, the whole project took 7 years.
Whoa.
We communicated on a daily basis for 3 years.
And how'd that start? He reached out to you? Is that
No,
what
I actually reached out to him.
Okay.
Because when I was hired as a firefighter with DC Fire Department, he was still active and on the loose, lighting fires throughout DC and PG, Montgomery, Northern Virginia, and there was a huge manhunt out for him.
Right.
They knew very little about him, so on and so forth. So I went to some of the fires that he had lit as a firefighter. And when they finally caught him and arrested him, they sentenced him to 2 consecutive life sentences.
Wow.
And he killed 4 people, lit thousands of fires that they know of. They don't even know an exact number. And several years went by, and his story never came out. So like 6 years went by, and I was thinking about it one day, about all of this, and I did some research, and what I found out was that, movie producers and authors, big wigs, nothing like me, had attempted to get his story and were completely unsuccessul.
Wow. And so you reached out to him, and I think we know why. Do you have that picture? Yeah. This is how Jonathan looks in that uniform.
Oh, boy. I was much skinnier then.
Right. So you reach out to him, and then you start meeting with him in prison. Tell me, this is really, I don't want to give all the book away, but this is an interesting story, but I also think that it's educational in a sense that what makes an arsonist tick? It's something that all firefighters could learn, and we need that information in order to catch them or to stop it if possible. To do this over and over and over again, what did he tell you? What was his motivation?
Well, he was one of the reasons that they were so difficult in catching him was most arsonists are somehow connected to the fire that they light, whether it's for insurance purposes or revenge. The places that he picked, he had no relation to those people.
Just random.
They were just random. Now, he had his reasonings for lighting those particular houses on fire, but he had no connection with any of these people, which made it extremely difficult
to catch him.
Exactly,
because you don't see any pattern, you can't find. So he's just walking down the street, just
and he
firing up houses.
Right. And he didn't meet the typical profile of a serial arsonist.
Wow. How many years was he on the loose?
He started in 1978 in D.C., and when they arrested him, it was 2005, so 28 years.
28 years, and he's copped to 300 and some fires, right? But
he said there were thousands, but he forgot about a lot too,
It's like him just walking. He just, I forgot about that house I burned down. Damn, I forgot about that. I mean, just right. Did he want to hurt people, or was it just really about the blaze and watching the building, burn, the 4 victims? Did he know that they were in the house or care? I guess is really what I'd like to know.
He said that his intentions were to never hurt anybody, but every building that he lit on fire, whether it was an apartment building or a house, it was always in the middle of the night, and they were always occupied. There was people living in them.
Right, so he wasn't going around burning down. I mean, there's a building across the street he could have burned down, right? So he wanted people to feel this loss, even though he didn't physically maybe want them to perish in the fire.
That's exactly right.
But there's something about that. So did you ever get freaked out? He sounds crazy as hell. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there.
He is. It was weird, listening to his stories. This sounds kind of difficult to probably understand, but in a weird way, you kind of feel bad for him, listening to his story. But in another way, you see how twisted he really is. So the nice part, with doing this project was knowing that he was locked up forever.
Right.
And he needs some serious help, which hopefully he does get, because what would happen in the letters, he would start telling stories, and you would see him start to relive it in the letters, and he would get completely carried away.
Wow.
Like he was
excited about
still doing it. And he said in a few of the letters that he's glad he's locked up, because if he was to get out tomorrow, he would go right back to doing what he used to always do.
Now, how is he feeding that, right? Because it's an addiction, it's a sickness. What's he doing in prison that any kind of behavior, acting out behavior that has replaced, what he was able to do out here? Did he share that with you?
I don't think he's doing much at all.
He's
very limited,
Wow. And is he, he's in regular population?
Yeah, he's actually in regular population, yeah.
All right.
He's down in Florida in the Coleman Penitentiary.
So let's get to this part, right? It's an excellent book. Don't want to give out, I got 2 more questions for you. First, start with this. Tell me about him. Like, what happened to him? Did, like, his childhood, without giving the whole thing away, because I want people to literally get this book, and you're going to tell them how to do that later. But walk me through, like, his personality, like, or his story, and what happened that made him want to do this.
Well, it was interesting because you would think from what he did that he had an extremely traumatic and troubled childhood.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a great childhood, but it wasn't what you would expect him to turn out to be. He said that his father was mean to him. He would call him a sissy. He witnessed a murder take place within his family.
Okay.
But it wasn't.
Right.
He wasn't physically abused. He wasn't sexually assaulted. It wasn't. It didn't add up to what he ended up.
Right. His
becoming.
level of trauma didn't make you go, "Oh, I get it." You're like,
it
what
never,
the heck? Still?
It never added up completely. I don't know.
Huh.
And I did he told me his entire life. The book is not only is it into his head specifically, like what he was feeling and why he did what he did, but it was also it's like a biography.
Sure.
It goes through his entire life leading up from the day he's born, his first memories until he was locked up, and even there's a chapter where it talks about his life in prison now.
Could he recall when he lit his first fire? Like at what age, and what was, if you could use some adjectives, or if he told you this, what it felt like when that first fire happened?
Well, it was exhilarating for him. The first things that he did, because he grew up in North Carolina,
okay,
they would make forts in the woods, and he said for some reason after every time they got done playing, he felt the need to light that fort on fire. Instead of just leaving it there and moving away, he would light them on fire.
So he was a kid.
Yeah, he's a small child, yeah.
Wow. So this runs deep with him. Like, all right, so then let's just go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room. So he's gay.
Right.
You're coming to visit him. I guess no one else is. You wearing your uniform up there or what? Like just in your regular this right here, or what's going on? Like,
his thing is he has a personal attraction to men in uniform.
Okay.
Whether it's people in the military, people that are police officers.
Okay, so not just firefighters.
No, it's not just firefighters. And that was one of the things that I noticed when I was doing the research when nobody was able to contact him, was that he was infatuated with men in uniform.
Gotcha.
So I remember it was April of 2011. I wrote him the first letter. It was the letter's in the book. Mm-hmm. It was one paragraph. Basically, all I said was, "I'm a firefighter. The behavior and the dynamics of fire really intrigues me," which I think you can understand since you're an arsonist.
Right.
I want to know, your whole story and write a book. What do you think? And I never thought I'd hear back from him because nobody else did. And it took a few days, and he called me, and
it's a collect call, right?
It was a collect call. I wasn't able to accept the phone call.
Okay.
Because I wasn't on his list of people to talk to.
Right. But you knew it had to be him.
Yeah, because I heard his voice.
You don't know anybody else in jail.
I heard his voice, right?
Right. Who else you know in jail?
Exactly.
No, right?
And then I got a letter from him, and with all the forms, and it started this whole process, and So, like I was saying before, to feedback on what you just said, he's not your typical serial arsonist. Your typical serial arsonist is usually a young, white, heterosexual male. Mm-hmm. He was at the time of his arrest, he was in his 50s, so he started at a younger age,
right,
like in his 30s, which isn't really young. But they arrested him. He was in his mid to late 50s. He was a black guy, which isn't typical, and he was a homosexual, which is not typical either. Yeah. Which is another reason they were having difficulties finding out who this guy was, because he broke
Didn't
the
fit
complete
any
stereotype
profile, right.
exactly of what you would anticipate.
Wow. And so he develops this crush on you. And so like does he open up about that, or like how is that? For a heterosexual guy, you got to get the information. You've got this lunatic who likes to burn people's houses down. He's killed 4 people. And you need to be at least friendly with him to get the information. But yet, you know, he wishes you would have that uniform on and get locked up with him. Like,
Right.
how difficult was that?
I think it was easier for me than my wife felt about it. She didn't really personally agree with it much.
Yeah, she knew you weren't going to run off to jail, though.
No, she knew that.
She shouldn't have been worried.
It was, you know, for what happened was, for the longest time, it was a relationship where I was just getting information. But at some point in time, you're going to run out of things to say.
Right.
You're going to tell your whole story, and that's going to be the end of it. And that's essentially what happened. Everything started getting dried up. He started becoming very vague, and he basically twisted and turned it on his attraction towards me, which I touched on a little bit in the book.
Okay.
But that was kind of a difficult thing. Because, you know, we had been talking for 3 years, but then towards the end, when his whole entire motives, it appeared
Changed,
to be
right. Shifted, kind of.
that it was just, you know, focused towards me.
So then the book is completed. And what's that last conversation like? Does he have a copy of the book, or you're like, hey, I got everything I need, you know, peace? Like,
Well, I haven't talked to him in 5 years.
okay.
Because we talked for 3 years. It took 2 years to write the book, and then 2 years to find a suitable publisher. So I haven't talked to him in 5 years. I still haven't decided yet if I'm going to send him a book.
Right.
I don't know. I'm still pondering back
Yeah.
and forth that I think about on a daily basis.
I bet, because if he got, I feel like if he got the book, I mean, he would spend all day just like
Right.
reading over it, and somehow in a weird, sick way, I feel like he'd be proud of it. And it's like, you know, look at it as this accomplishment, and that's certainly not, you don't want to reward that behavior. But, you know, it also would be interesting to see what he thought
Right.
of the book, and maybe he would open up more, and there are other stories and other things that we don't know, and it might be a sequel. So it's super interesting. I'm gonna finish it. Definitely gonna finish it this weekend. But tell people how they can get in contact with you. They can find the book, all that kind of good stuff.
So if you want to get in contact with me, you can go directly to my website. It's Thomas Sweatt, SWEATT book.com, thomassweattbook.com. If you want to buy a copy, you can go directly through my publisher, which is Mascot Books. You can also go on Amazon. You can go on Barnes & Noble, and you can go on Books A Million and purchase it directly through there.
Sweet. And how are book sales going?
They're going great. I have not talked to the publisher intentionally.
Right.
In about 2 weeks, because I want to set my expectations low.
Okay.
And see how it goes.
Yeah, well, listen, and Jonathan will come out. He'll tell you the story. Get in contact with him. If you want him for a book signing, I'm telling you, this is super interesting. I think it's so unique that all these Hollywood bigwigs wanted this story, and you got it right here. So
nobody.
Yeah, well, you're somebody. And I also want to just say thank you for the service that you do for our community. Just running into, I've never understood firefighters. The building is on fire, and you guys actually run into it.
Well, we're a little crazy
just,
too.
Yeah, that's just a little strange to me, right? It's like it doesn't compute with me. But I really thank you for your time. You and I need to talk off air about some CPR stuff that we can collaborate on. Thanks for being here. Get this book, people. Get the book. Reach out. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here with us. We'll be right back. The next guest that I have will be Sterling McKinney. It's 36 Nation Radio. We'll be right back.